How's it going on TV? Hope everyone is staying safe in quarantine, but today I'm going to show you just a couple of different lighting techniques to help you guys with your videos. Before going into these lighting techniques, you have to understand the piece that you're shooting in order to pick what technique you want to use. So a lot of the techniques that have a lot of shadows are going to be more dramatic, and the ones that have a little bit less shadows are going to be a little bit more softer for those lighthearted pieces. One thing to look out for when you're lighting somebody and that really helps draw your audience into your piece is something called the catch light. And the catch light is the light reflected off of the eye back into the camera. So if you look at the subject, you can see her eye catch is on the left side, and that is reflecting from the light source that I'm using to light her. There are a couple different reasons why you would get a good catch light, one of them being the distance. You want to try to light your subject as close to your subject as possible. That means bringing all of your lights in as close as you can without getting them in the frame. That is going to give you, that's going to be a good step to getting you a good catch light. Another one is being how big is your light source. The bigger the light source, the bigger the catch light is going to be. This is usually accomplished by using a softbox like I am using here. So these lights underneath this softbox are actually pretty small. They're regular sized light bulbs, but now when I put the softbox on it, it illuminates the entire softbox, creating a bigger catch light on my subject. So the first lighting technique I'm going to show you, probably one of the most popular ones you'll find, is called loop lighting. And loop lighting is when you get a loop-shaped shadow underneath the nose of the subject. Now the way you accomplish this is placing the light on the left or the right side of the subject, about 45-degree angle. If you go too far over to the side, you'll get something that we'll go over later. It's called split lighting. And if you go too far in front, closer to the camera, you'll get something that looks more like flat lighting, which I'll get into a little bit also. So you can see on the right side of her face that is a nice dark shadow. This gives a lot of dimension to the face, and you have the loop right underneath the nose. The more drastic you go over with your angle of the light, the more drastic that loop will go across the cheek, and then that's going to get into something called Rembrandt lighting, which I'll get into a little later also. The next lighting technique I'm going to show you is called flat lighting, and flat lighting is pretty much as the name explains. It makes the image, the subject, feel very flat. There are not a lot of dramatic shadows. The way you accomplish this is by putting the light as close to the lens as possible. So you can see the flat light is just hitting her straight in the face. It's not coming from either side or above, and this gives the profile of the subject very flat looking. And the reasons why you would use something like flat lighting is for infomercials. There's a lot of sitcoms that use so they're for more comedy type things. It's things that are not very dramatic. You'll see this a lot in news because usually they have the light on top of the camera. So those are some of the practical reasons why you would use a flat lighting technique. This lighting technique is called Paramount or butterfly lighting, and the name of this lighting technique comes from Paramount Studios, who used this quite a lot in the early days. And if you look underneath the nose and the shadow that it creates, it kind of looks like a butterfly. The situations that you would use this kind of lighting technique is if you're going for a dramatic look, but you want the subject to look a little bit more feminine. So this is usually used on a lot of female actresses. It creates a nice shadow where the cheekbones are, really accentuates the cheekbones. But the one thing you got to be careful of with this lighting technique, if you go too far over the top of the subject, you'll create what's called raccoon eyes, and that'll from the eyelids of the subject, creating a dark shadow where the eyes are, and that's what you want to focus on when you are lighting somebody. So you just got to be careful of that. But other than that, this is a great lighting technique if you're trying to give something dramatic and someone that's a little bit more of a feminine character, or for females. This very dramatic looking lighting technique is called Rembrandt lighting, and the name Rembrandt lighting comes from a painter back in the day that I don't know what year he was painting from. His name was Rembrandt, and he used this lighting technique quite a lot. So it kind of comes off of a loop lighting and a split lighting, and it creates a nice highlighted triangle underneath the eye, and you can see it there on the right side. This is a very dramatic, masculine type of lighting, and it's accomplished by doing the loop lighting technique and just moving it over and a little bit higher. It creates the loop lighting going through the cheek and connecting to the right side cheek shadow there, and that creates the triangle underneath the eye. This is used a lot in Hollywood with a lot of masculine actors. It makes it look very powerful. And this is something if you're going for a very dramatic piece, this is something that you would probably want to use. This last technique that I'm going to show out of these 5 one lighting techniques is called split lighting, and it does pretty much what the name entails. It splits the subject in half. So you can see I have my light all the way over, approximately 90 degrees from the subject from my camera, and it has light on her left side and completely dark on her right side. This is very, very dramatic. It's used in very limited situations since you have no detail on the right side of the subject. So this is very easy lighting technique, and one that can be very effective if you're going for a very dramatic piece. After you have lit your subject the way you wanted to, there is another way to make your piece look more or less dramatic, and that has to do with what side you are shooting your subject on. And this is called broad or short lighting. Broad lighting is when you shoot on the same side as your brightest source of light. So you can see it right here. I am shooting on the broad side, which is where my main light source is, and you can see most of the detail in my subject while keeping it a little dramatic because the other half is dark. But now when I flip it, this is called short lighting, and now I'm shooting on the dark side of my subject. This usually gives a more dramatic look, and you'll see this a lot in movies and TV shows. The last thing I'm going to share with you is something called backlighting, and this can be accomplished with one light if you have a natural light source around you. This could be the sun, a window, a door frame. Those are a few things that you can use as a backlight if you don't have the luxury of having 2 lights. I am using 2 lights here since I don't have a window near me, and I place it on the right side so you can see on her back shoulder I'm having a nice halo light around her, and this helps separate the subject from the background and helps you draw your audience into the subject a little bit more.